So I called the President of the United States early this morning, which I don't often do. He and I are very close friends. I know this upsets the isolationists and the fifth columnists and their media mouthpieces and propagandists. I said, Mr. President, have I lobbied you about Iran? He said, no. I said, Mr. President, when we met last week, did I lobby you about Iran? He said, no. I said, Mr. President, did I ask to meet with you or did you ask to meet with me last week? He said, I asked to meet with you. He said, why? I said, because we have a group of people who are pushing propaganda, who are pushing a narrative into Politico, into other places, that suggests the opposite. Well, Mark, why don't you ignore them? Ignore them because you and I both know it's not true. It's very important that you folks understand. I'm going to continue. I'm not going to get into what I discussed with a president who wants to meet with me. There were a number of subjects that came up. As far as Iran goes, the president knows exactly where I stand on Iran. And he told me he knows exactly where I stand on Iran. Because he watches my shows on Fox on Saturday and Sunday. The whole world knows where I stand on Iran. The fifth columnists, the isolationists, know where I stand on Iran. I suspect the Islamo-Nazis in Tehran know where I stand on Iran. So why is that a secret? What I am not doing, and what I would not do to Donald Trump, is lead a lobbying campaign of hawks, as it was put in Politico, war hawks. I'm not leading any lobbying campaign. I haven't organized any lobbying campaign, but it doesn't matter. So somebody and some group, a cabal, are putting out these leaks to entities like Politico. Politico is untrustworthy. They took $8 million in subscriptions last year, 2024, from the taxpayers through the government and so forth. But I can tell you they're liars. I can tell you that the main writer of this piece, Rachel Bade, is a liar. That Rachel Bade is a propagandist. That Rachel Bade is a scribe for the isolationists, for the Iranian special pleaders. And let me tell you something, America. These Iranian special pleaders like Chatsworth Osborne Jr. and others, they're making it, in my view, very difficult to get a deal with Iran. Because Iran, apparently, from what the president said yesterday, is more arrogant, more in your face than they've been before. Because they watch our media. They watch the Chatsworths. They watch the others, some of the people in the White House who are undermining the President of the United States. They see it and they hear it. And so they think that is a majority position of the United States when it is a tiny minority position of these reprobates and malcontents and miscreants. Now, it's not a complicated issue. Under no circumstances should Iran get a nuclear weapon. That's the Trump position, the MAGA position, the Reaganite position, the Rhino position, the position of everybody who has two brain cells to rub together. The debate is over whether you can trust an Islamic terrorist regime that has already lied its way through multiple administrations, that has signed numerous documents with the UN, with Europe, with anybody they want. And yet here we are at the 11th hour. And then we're told it's not the 11th hour. There's some question about the intelligence, says Tulsi Gabbard. But Tulsi Gabbard is the only one. The IAEA says we're on the precipice. The Austrian intelligence says we're on the precipice. Our own head of, trying to find it, Central Command says they're on the precipice, that they can have nuclear material in 1 week if they sprint to it. He just testified to that today. The Israelis say they're on the precipice and they have the most to lose if there is, in fact, a military campaign. So, but Politico says there's some kind of question about this. Now, I know who's leaking. There was a big article in the New York Times a couple of years ago about Chatsworth Osborne Jr. He's been in Washington his entire life. He's worked the system his entire life. He's got all kinds of media at the Washington Post, at Politico and everything. Rails against the left, but he uses the left and they use him. I don't have any of these contacts. I don't talk to any of these people. If I put him into a lie detector test right now and asked him one media outlet to the other, he'd flunk if he lied. So that's the difference. I tell you the truth. I'm not working through any media. I'm not undermining the president. I'm not lobbying the president. I give my opinion if I'm asked, and of course, I'm paid to give my opinion here and on TV and on Blaze. It's that simple. My views are almost completely in line with the president's. Almost. I'm not changing his views. I'm not making his views. I don't treat him that way. Now, I know who the leakers are. Just a matter of time. In remarks at a Monday Business Roundtable, President Trump made clear that the Iranian proposals thus far were unacceptable. Quote, they're asking for things you can't do, Trump said. They don't want to give up, but they have to give up. They seek enrichment. We can't have enrichment. We want just the opposite. And so far, they're not there. None of this appeared in the Politico piece. None of it. I didn't say this. I didn't urge the president to say it. He said it. He said it. All the leaking to Axios and the leaking to Politico and the leaking to... It's the isolationists who are doing it. It's them. They're doing it. They're trying to undermine the president. And what they're actually doing, America, is they're making his job 1,000 times more difficult for the reasons I said. The Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran watches them, listens to them, hears what they're saying, and they say, oh, wow, this influencer, he has no problem with it. This person in the administration, they have no problem with it. And so they are emboldened. They're emboldened. So last week, I'm not going to tell you everything that was discussed. I had a meeting with the president at his request. It's leaked to the media, and then they put a spin on it. Levin is lobbying Trump on the war. He asked my opinion. I gave my opinion. It's the same opinion I've given to you day in and day out. Same opinion I've given on Fox day in, day out. Same opinion I've given on Blaze day in and day out. And there's no surprise by anybody for anything. I'm not lobbying for anybody. I'm not lobbying for a group of people. And yet this is what these dishonest reprobates want you to believe. Why? Because they're desperate. They're the ones who have ties to Qatar. They're the ones who have ties to Putin. They're the ones who have ties to all these bizarre, evil regimes. The ones who are mouthpieces, the special pleaders for the enemy. Not me. I was raised properly. I know who the good guys are and the bad guys are. I'm not a former Democrat who's now in the administration attacking in her own way the brave men who had to drop atomic bombs on Japan to end what could have been a forever war, or where we might have lost up to 1 million soldiers. This is sick. Sick, in my humble opinion. I'm not a hawk. I'm a realist. A realist. Foreign policy is about prudence. It's not about hawks and doves. It's not about ideology. This is what Rachel Bade is literally too stupid to understand. I've written about it in Liberty and Tyranny. I've explained it over and over on this program. She doesn't know me. She doesn't listen to this show. She doesn't watch Fox. No, she's planted. This information is planted to her by Chatsworth and the others, and she runs with it. She also works for ABC News. So she works for two media organizations that have serious questions of credibility. An influential group of GOP hawks has launched a behind-the-scenes lobbying offensive pressing President Donald Trump not only to back off his administration's quest for a nuclear deal with Iran, but greenlight an attack on Tehran by Israel. When did I do that? A lobbying offensive. An influential group of GOP hawks. Who am I working with? The campaign is raising alarms among Trump and his allies. Among Trump and his allies? Did they even talk to the president? He would have laughed at them. Oh, and by the way, at the end of the call, he invited my wife and me to have dinner at the White House in the next month or two. And if I said, that's funny, because if I do that, it'll be more the lobbying campaign by the hawks on Iran. And he laughed. And I won't tell you what word he used. He said, but don't worry about that. I'm not worried about it. During a private lunch, writes Rachel Bade and Felicia Schwartz, with the president at the White House last Wednesday, conservative talk show host Mark Levin told Trump that Iran was days away from building a nuclear weapon. Have I said that here, Mr. Producer? Have I said it on TV, Mr. Producer? An argument Trump's own intelligence team has told the president is not accurate. Yet his military advisors apparently are telling them it is accurate. And so is his CIA. So who are these intelligence advisors? We know who. According to an intelligence official, I counted 5 anonymous sources in her article. Not one of them would go on the record. Not one of them had the courage to go on the record. Not a damn one. So here's Rachel Bade, a fraud, a liar, who goes with 5 anonymous sources, lies about me and my relationship with the president, and the whole story's about how the war hawks are lobbying the president, and we're not. Certainly I'm not. And then the isolationists, she doesn't call them isolationists. She doesn't call them any pejoratives, nothing. It's all one way, the 5 anonymous sources. And she goes on. On a separate front, MAGA loyalists have been warily eyeing Rupert Murdoch's papers, particularly the New York Post. See, this is the giveaway, Chatsworth, whatever. The hate for Fox. Levin won't take your crap. He doesn't like bullies. More than happy to engage with you. They're trying to push the president to make a decision that's not what he wants. A senior administration official told Politico. Off the record, of course. Now, that's one of 2 people, and they know I know who they are. This person, like the others in the story, was granted anonymity to speak freely. Wow. Isn't that amazing? And to spread their lies. That's why they spoke anonymously. So Rachel Bade, we tried to get her on this program to discuss her story. We asked her twice, didn't you, Mr. Producer? And she ignored you. She ignored you. She does commentary for ABC News. She's the Washington writer for Politico. But she ignored Mr. Producer. I wanted to have her on here. I wanted to challenge her. I wanted to challenge her on the anonymous sources. I wanted to challenge her on the lobbying. I wanted to challenge her on what happened in the meeting. But she's a coward, like they all are. She's a fraud. Rachel Bade, B-A-D-E. Now you're on my radar screen. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now, I do happen to know from friends at the White House that Chatsworth Osborne Jr. is constantly lobbying the White House, attempting to lobby the president, the vice president, Gabbard and others on this issue, constantly. And in this article, the moron who wrote it, Rachel Bade, doesn't realize, she says, the lobbying has triggered, where's our buddy here? She mentions Charlie Kirk. I'll tell you something about Charlie Kirk. I like Charlie Kirk. He's very honest about his positions. Doesn't mean we agree all the time, but he's not a sleazeball. He's not a sleazeball. He doesn't play games. He doesn't leak to the press, to the best of my knowledge. and Jack Posobiec. I don't know him. If I mispronounced it, I apologize. Sure, he's a great guy. I don't know anything about. But that's that. But we know what's going on. The White House knows what's. I know what's going on. Little media types like Politico and maybe the Daily Caller, which was founded by Chatsworth, and who knows? Oh, the Intelligent. Where the hell is that one? That was the Independent. You know, if I were Politico, I'd sue the Independent. Because I'd say about 80% of Isabel Keene's piece was plagiarized from Politico. She goes further, that I'm lobbying Trump with misinformation. What a bunch of jackasses.